Day 26, Ionic Compounds with Polyatomic Ions, Part 1. Well, last week we went through naming ionic compounds and we were introduced into +1, -1, and +2, -2, and +3, -3 all equals 0. And so that's great. So this week we want to expand on that and we want to include those polyatomic ions that I asked you to memorize. Do you remember the list of polyatomic ions? Well, if not, let me show you. Well, here's our periodic table of ions that we were working with. And up here is our polyatomic ion table. One day I asked you to memorize all of these polyatomic ions. You need to know them. All right, so we're going to go and use this and combine this with what we did last week. And hopefully we're just going to expand our knowledge on chemistry and learning how to name chemical compounds. So make sure you're ready. Now, if you didn't happen to memorize these, well, that's just a shame. But what you should do is get that, print you out a copy of those polyatomic ions. You need to have that with you as well as this periodic table of ions. Get both of those with you so that you have those to look off of. All right, let's get going. Well, here we go. +1 -1 equals 0, +2 -2 equals 0, and +3 -3 equals 0. So just like we did last week, I'm going to start with the +1s, and then I'll move to the +2s and the +3s. So I'm going to pick a +1, and I'm going to pick a -1. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our periodic table of ions, and we're going to pick any of these +1s. And what we're going to do is we're going to match it with any of these -1s. Any one of them. It doesn't matter which one you want to pick. And we're just going to slap them together. That's all it is. So let's go. All right. Sodium is a +1 nitrate. This whole thing, NO3, this is nitrate. All of that is a -1. +1 -1 equals 0. All right, so we just shove them together. NaNO3. All right, sodium nitrate. So sodium was the ion, nitrate was the polyatomic ion. Remember, an ion is a charged atom. A polyatomic ion, poly meaning more than one, atom ion. So there's more than one atom shoved together to form an ion. So sodium nitrate. Sodium is +1. Instead of nitrate, we have NO2, which is nitrite. Sodium nitrite. Potassium +1. ClO is called hypochlorite. And again, if you forgot, make sure you go to your polyatomic ions, right? Hypochlorite, right there, ClO. It's got a -1 charge to it. So we have potassium hypochlorite. Lithium is another +1. Lithium, ClO2 is called chlorite. ClO2, chlorite. We're just shoving them together. Lithium chlorite. Silver. Silver is a +1. ClO3 is called chlorate. Silver chlorate. See how we just write them? We do our silver +1 and we do our -1 and we just shove them together. Silver chlorate. So +1 -1 equals 0. Now what we're going to do is +2 -2 equals 0. So again, go back to your periodic table of ions. Go to the +2 column right there, right? Go to this column. Get your +2. Any one of them. Doesn't matter which one. Then go to the polyatomic ion table and pick any of the -2s. So you have a +2 and a -2. Just slap them together. Any combination you want. You just go ahead and do it. Calcium is a +2. SO4 is sulfate. That's a -2. Ca +2. Sulfate SO4 -2. Calcium sulfate. Calcium sulfite. SO3 is sulfite. Calcium sulfite. Magnesium is a +2. CO3 is called carbonate. Magnesium carbonate would be the combination when you put those together. Magnesium carbonate. All right. Now, Be is beryllium. O2 is called peroxide. Now, this one here, this O2, don't forget. O2, when there's two oxygens shoved together that has a -2 charge, this is a polyatomic ion called peroxide. All right, so peroxide. So beryllium peroxide. +2 -2 equals 0. All right, so Zn is a +2, CrO4 is a -2, zinc chromate. Zinc and chromate. All right, so we got our +2s and -2s. Now, what if we did that crisscross stuff? You know, remember we have zinc with a +2 and we have chromate, CrO4, with a -2. Let's try the zinc chromate with that crisscross. Remember, this whole chromate, this whole polyatomic ion has a charge of -2, and zinc is a +2. So this 2 has to come down here, and this 2 has to go over here. So we'll get zinc, and then there's a 2 here, and then we'll get a CrO4. Now, this whole thing has a 2, all right? Notice I brought that 2 down and I put it over here. But what happens is we have to reduce. So these become 1s. And then we would get Zn, and then it'd be CrO4 with a 1 here. But that 1, because there's 1 on both of them, but those 1s are understood. And if it's just a 1, we do not have the parentheses. That's what I wanted to show you. So we'll get Zn CrO4, just like that. Zn CrO4. Notice how I did that. Let's do it again. Let's do it on this aluminum phosphate. Aluminum +3 ion, phosphate, PO4 -3 ion. Again, don't forget that polyatomic ion table right there. Phosphate, PO4, -3 charge. All right, so aluminum phosphate. All right, let's write that out. Aluminum is a +3. Phosphate is PO4. This whole thing is a -3. So let's go ahead and do that. If I bring this 3 down and bring this 3 down, notice I put in the parentheses. That's real important, especially if you're going to do this crisscross method. So Al, and that would be a 3 here, and they'll have parentheses, PO4, and then we'll put a 3 here. Notice that the 3's reduce, so we'll reduce it to 1. If there's only a 1, we don't write it, and if there's only a 1, we do not include the parentheses. So then our formula just becomes AlPO4, just like we have it. All right, gallium +3, BO3 is borate, gallium borate. See, we're just shoving them together. We're taking our positive ion and are shoving it with our negative anion, or negatively charged ion, or negatively charged polyatomic ion. So gallium borate. Indium +3, right? ASO4 is arsenate. So indium arsenate, InASO4. Indium phosphate, InPO4. Yttrium phosphate, YPO4. All right, so we take our positive charge and we mix it with our negative polyatomic ion. And we follow this exact same rules that we did last week. The +1 -1 equals 0, the +2 -2 equals 0, and the +3 -3 equals 0. Pick any of the +1s, mix it with any of the -1s. Pick any of the +2s, mix them with any of the -2s. Pick any +3, mix it with any -3. Slap them together, write out their names. I mean, you might say, well, how am I supposed to name this? Well, let's go back and let's look at something. And SR, and maybe we'll say SO4. SO4. And you might say, well, how do I know what the name of that compound is? Well, you have memorized that SO4 is a polyatomic ion that is called sulfate. SO4 is sulfate. And SR, you remembered, was strontium. So guess what the name is? Strontium sulfate. It's exactly what you would expect. So let's try this. ZnCO3. Can you tell me what the name of that compound is? Well, you memorize Zn is called zinc. And CO3, you memorize that as carbonate. So Carbonate. And you remembered that zinc was a +2, carbonate was a -2. This whole thing is called carbonate, CO3. The whole thing is a -2 charge. Your math equation is +2 minus 2 equals 0, and you just name it, zinc carbonate. I hope that makes sense for you. All right, so now it's time to do some practice on your own with the homework, and then we'll take our quiz.